Jason Morgan coming back to Port Charles should not begin with a heroic rescue, a clean jailbreak, or one of those easy soap opera moments where the music swells, everyone cries, and Stone Cold simply walks back into the room like nothing broke while he was gone. No. If General Hospital really wants to make Jason's return matter, I think the first thing we should see is something much colder, much sharper, and much more painful. Jason standing in the shadows, watching his own son move closer to Sonny's world, and realizing that the people he sacrificed himself to protect did not stay protected at all. That, to me, is the real story. The current setup is already explosive. Jason was taken into WSB custody after the Cullum shooting. While Rocco admitted to Lulu that he was the one who shot Cullum, Danny was devastated by Jason's arrest, and Britt was emotionally tied to Jason's exit as well. Recent recaps have also put Ethan near Sonny's orbit while Jason is gone, and Rocco has since confessed the shooting truth to Britt, which means this secret is already spreading beyond the people who were supposed to contain it. So, I do not think Jason's return should be treated as the solution. I think Jason's return should be the moment everyone realizes the damage has already begun. To me, the most interesting version of this story is not how does Jason escape the WSB. That is too simple. We have seen Jason survive impossible things before. We know he can take pain, silence, prison, betrayal, and danger better than almost anyone else in Port Charles. The better question is, what did his absence do to the people who depended on him? Because Jason has always believed that if he takes the fall, if he absorbs the punishment, if he keeps quiet long enough, then everyone else gets to live. But this time, I feel like his silence may be the thing that poisons the people he was trying to save. Danny is where I would start. I think Danny should be the emotional center of Jason's comeback. Not Carly, not Sonny, not even Britt, although all three matter. Danny is the consequence Jason cannot walk away from. Because when a boy loses his father to a secret he does not fully understand, he does not just grieve. He starts building a story in his head. And the story Danny may be building is dangerous. My father disappeared because he was loyal, because he protected people, because he stood between danger and everyone else. So if I want to be close to him, maybe I have to become like him. That is terrifying, and I think Jason should be terrified by it. I can picture Jason returning quietly, maybe not even to Carly's house first, maybe not to Sonny's office, maybe not even to Britt. I can see him going somewhere no one expects, watching from a distance, and seeing Danny in a place Danny should not be. Maybe Danny is outside Sonny's warehouse. Maybe he is talking to Ethan. Maybe he is not holding a gun, because I do not think the show needs to rush that far. But he is asking questions no kid should ask. He wants names. He wants to know who hurt Jason. He wants to know what Sidwell has on everyone. He wants to know what kind of man makes the WSB take his father away. And Jason, who has faced killers without flinching, freezes. Because this is different. This is not a bullet. This is inheritance. I think Jason's worst fear should not be dying. It should be seeing Danny learn the wrong lesson from his life. Jason has spent decades being useful to dangerous people. He has been loyal, controlled, silent, and lethal. Fans love him for that, and I understand why. But as a father, that legacy is complicated. If Danny starts seeing Jason's pain as something noble instead of tragic, then Jason's return becomes much more than a reunion. It becomes an intervention. And I would love a scene where Danny finally explodes at him. Not in a childish way, but in a wounded, angry, teenage way that cuts deeper, because some of it is true. You do not get to disappear and come back acting like my father. That line would destroy Jason, because Jason would know Danny is wrong and right at the same time. Jason did not choose to abandon him in the casual sense, but Jason did choose the silence. He chose the sacrifice. He chose to let the adults manage the consequences, and now a child is paying for the emotional cost. Then there is Rocco. I think Rocco's story should be just as heavy, but in a different way. Rocco is not becoming Jason. Rocco is being crushed by Jason. Not because Jason wants to hurt him, but because Jason's sacrifice has become a living accusation. Every time Rocco sees Danny grieving, every time he hears Jason's name, every time someone says Jason is gone because of the shooting, Rocco has to live inside the truth. Jason is paying for something I did. That is not protection. That is a cage. And I think the show has a strong opportunity here. Rocco should not confess publicly too soon, because the longer he holds the truth, the more it changes him. He should start slipping. He should avoid Danny. He should get angry when people praise Jason. He should panic when Cullum's name comes up. And now that Britt knows the truth, I think Britt could become the one person Rocco both trusts and fears, because she is connected to Jason, connected to the danger, and connected to the secret. In my prediction, Jason coming home does not make Rocco feel relieved. It makes him feel worse. There is a brutal scene I keep imagining. Rocco sees Jason for the first time after his return, and he cannot look him in the eye. Jason, being Jason, keeps his voice calm. He tells Rocco he did what he had to do. But Rocco says something like, "I thought I would feel better when you came back, but now I have to see what I did to you." That is soap opera pain in the best way. Not just action, not just plot, consequence. And Sonny? I think Sonny's role should be uncomfortable. I do not want a simple Sonny versus Jason fight. That would feel too obvious. What I want is a quieter fracture. While Jason was gone, Sonny had to keep moving. He had enemies. He had Sidwell. He had the WSB pressure. He had a vacuum where Jason used to stand. So if Ethan steps into that space, even temporarily, I think Jason should notice what that means. Not jealousy. Jason is not petty like that. But recognition. Sonny has learned to operate without him. And maybe that hurts more than Jason expects. I think Jason returns and sees that Sonny did not fall apart. He adapted. He made new arrangements. He considered new muscle, new strategies, new risks. And Jason may tell himself that is fine, because Sonny surviving is what Jason would want. But emotionally, I think it should unsettle him, because Jason has built so much of his identity around being the person Sonny trusts when things go dark. If Sonny has found another way to function, then where does that leave Jason? But the sharper conflict, in my opinion, is not about Sonny replacing Jason. It is about Sonny influencing Danny, even unintentionally. If Danny has been sniffing around Sonny's world because Jason is gone, then Jason may finally have to say the thing he has avoided for years. Loyalty to Sonny has cost too much. I do not think Jason would abandon Sonny overnight. That is not believable. But I do think he could draw a line that he has never drawn before. Not around business. Around Danny. He might say, "You can ask anything of me, not him." That would be a major shift. And for me, that is the kind of Jason story that feels worth Steve Burton's return. Not just Jason punching his way back into the plot, but Jason realizing that his old loyalties have created new dangers for his son. Then there is Britt, and I think Britt should not be written as someone waiting to be rescued. That would be too easy, and honestly too weak for her. Britt has survived too much, lost too much, and played too many dangerous games to simply stand around waiting for Jason to break down a door. I think Britt should understand the trap before Jason does. She should know that if Jason rushes toward her, the WSB or Sidwell or Cullum Circle could use that move against him. Jason rescuing Britt might be exactly what the enemy wants. So my favorite prediction is this. Britt tells Jason not to come for her. Not because she does not want him, because she knows him too well. She knows Jason's instinct is to save the person in front of him, even if it destroys him later. And I think Britt, more than almost anyone, could force him to hear the truth. If he gets taken again, Danny may not come back from it emotionally. If he acts like the old Jason, he may lose his son to the very world he keeps trying to control. A secret call between Britt and Jason could be incredible. She says, "You coming after me is the trap." Jason says, "I do not leave people behind." And Britt answers, then do not leave Danny behind by getting yourself taken again. That is the kind of line that changes the whole story. Because then Jason's comeback is not about whether he can save Britt. It is about whether he can learn a new way to protect people without turning himself into the sacrifice every single time. And that brings me to Port Charles itself. I think the most powerful theme here is that Port Charles has been testing life without Stone Cold. Everyone has reacted differently. Carly may have had to face what it means not to have Jason as her emotional emergency exit. Sonny may have had to rebuild his power structure. Danny may have started chasing danger. Rocco may have started collapsing under guilt. Britt may have been forced to survive without counting on Jason's arrival. Elizabeth may be the one person who sees the pattern clearly. Jason keeps leaving pieces of himself behind so other people can stay whole. But what if they are not staying whole? What if his sacrifice does not heal people anymore? What if it just teaches them to hide, lie, harden, and wait for him to bleed for them again? That is why I do not want Jason's return to feel triumphant at first. I want it to feel haunted. I want the audience to feel the relief of seeing him and the dread of realizing he came back to a Port Charles that has shifted underneath him. In my prediction, the WSB may not simply lose Jason. They may allow him back into circulation, because he is useful as bait. They know people will move around him. Sonny will react. Britt will reach out. Denny will act emotionally. Rocco may crack. Jason's very presence could expose everyone's secrets. And Jason, if he is smart, may realize that too. So the new Jason cannot just be the man who runs into danger. He has to be the man who stands still long enough to see the whole board. That is harder for him. And that is why it would be interesting. For the climax of this arc, I would put Danny and Rocco face to face. Not Jason and Cullum, not Sonny and Sidwell. The real emotional explosion should be between the two boys carrying the fallout. Danny finds out, or nearly finds out, that Rocco pulled the trigger. Rocco breaks. Danny feels betrayed. And Jason has to step between them, not as an enforcer, but as a father. Jason says, "Rocco pulled the trigger. I made the choice. Do not punish him for what I chose." That, to me, is the moment Jason begins to break the cycle. He stops letting children inherit adult lies. I am not saying this is what General Hospital will do. I am not claiming this is official. This is only my personal prediction, based on where I think the emotional stakes are strongest. But I truly feel Jason's return should not be written as a reset button. It should be written as a reckoning. Because if he simply comes home, hugs the right people, saves Britt, protects Rocco, reassures Danny, and slides back beside Sonny, then the story wastes the best part of his absence. The best part is not that Jason was gone. The best part is what everyone became while he was gone. And maybe the question is no longer whether Port Charles needs Stone Cold back. Maybe the real question is whether Jason Morgan can come home without becoming Stone Cold all over again,